To the MasterMIND Club, the ultimate Bitcoin mining community. Here you will connect with fellow miners weekly to share ideas, get inspired, and stay motivated. We'll keep you on track with accountability sessions and help you brainstorm winning strategies. Level up with our monthly deep dives into tech.
Welcome to the Mastermind Club, your ultimate gateway into the world of Bitcoin mining. Whether you're just starting out or looking to scale your operations, our vibrant community of like-minded enthusiasts is here to support you every step of the way. Join us for weekly sessions led by industry pros, where you'll exchange ideas, brainstorm strategies, and stay motivated on your mining journey. From heat management to site optimization, our monthly deep dives cover the technical know-how you need to succeed. And with access to our entire back catalog, you'll never miss a beat. But that's not all. Our members enjoy exclusive one-on-one sessions with veteran miners, plus direct access to special pre-sales and insider opportunities at Bitcoin Mining World. Ready to take your mining to the next level? Join the Mastermind Club today and secure your spot in the future of Bitcoin mining. Visit bitcoinminingworld.com or scan the QR code now. And now back to the show.
Good morning and welcome everybody. My name is John Taylor and you are in the Mastermind Club. We are going to deep dive into something I am very excited about. We're going to be talking about quantum computers and how quantum computers, I don't know if they're going to take over the world and destroy Bitcoin, but I think that they're going to make a huge difference in the world. And when we're at events, when we're talking with people, it comes up. There's the random grumpy uncle who walks by the booth and says, quantum computers are going to destroy Bitcoin and, blah, blah, blah. And, quantum computers are going to do this. They're going to take over the world. They're going to make robots that will kill us all. I think the future is much brighter than that, though. I think quantum computers are going to help us move forward faster. They're going to help solve a lot of problems that we have. And today we're going to have a very special guest, Bryant D. Nielson from the Web3 Certification Board, who's going to talk to us about what the future looks like and how quantum computing is going to actually help us in the future and some things that he has learned about this fascinating topic. But before we get there, we have some fantastic events coming up. Next Tuesday, it is the virtual conference. And let's put that little slide up there. There we go. There is a QR code. There is a website address. You're going to want to get your ticket for this. Here's what's going on. 8 a.m. till 7 p.m. at night, we're going to be talking about Bitcoin mining and things that are interesting to Bitcoin miners. This is going to be how hardware works, how immersion works, the business of being in the Bitcoin business, how you can use stranded gas. And Bryant D. Nielson, our guest today, is going to be talking about education. And that's what this is all about, what we're doing right now. I call it the zero factor. How can we add another zero to the value of Bitcoin through education? It's through events like these at the virtual conference where we try to make more, invite more people into the Bitcoin world. The Bitcoin world is pretty small. I did some numbers on it and I'll share that on Tuesday. If we get more people involved in it, there's going to be more nodes. There's going to be more small miners. There's going to be more sharing of ideas. And together we will all prosper. So we really want to help educate the community, educate the 95%, as Michael Saylor says, to get into the Bitcoin mining business. And the virtual conference is a great way to do it. Bring your friends, bring your money, bring your friends' money, bring it all. We're going to have a fantastic show on Tuesday, March 11th. It's going to be great. And if you are in FLA doing a little Florida hot action, the Mining Mafia meetup hosted by Bitcoin Mining World is going to be going on the 25th. And do I have that date right? Let's get a thumbs up from Trevor. There we go. All right. The 25th. It's going to be Wednesday night, and it's right across from the convention center that Mining Disrupt is at. We're going to have a rager, and it is March 26th, and my date is wrong. Thank you, Scott Offord. So we will just go ahead and take that down and put the slide right up with the correct date on it. There we go. Easily solved, easily solved. You can buy tickets here for the March 26th event with the Mining Mafia meetup. And that's going to be just a lot of fun. We got a great place in a beautiful hotel. We got drinks and tacos from what I saw today. And it's looking like a really, really fun event. So let's get into it. Today, we are going to talk with Bryant D. Nielson about Bitcoin mining and quantum computing. And Bryant Nielson is the CEO of the Web3 Certification Board. And he's also the author of the Ultimate Bitcoin Mining Handbook, which I normally have a copy right behind me, and the Digital Mint, and how mining shapes cryptocurrency economics. With over a decade of experience in the blockchain education, Bryant brings a wealth of knowledge and insight to the evolving world of digital assets. As the host of the Bitcoin Alchemy podcast, Bryant explores the intersection of technology, economics, and innovation in the Bitcoin mining space, helping listeners unlock the secrets to successful mining operations. That's what I meant. And understand the forces shaping the future of digital money, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Bryant has immersed in the Bitcoin and blockchain ecosystem since 2015, and he's the founder of the Blockchain Academy. That's where we lead groundbreaking educational initiatives to train thousands of professionals in blockchain and Web3 technologies. His expertise also includes serving as director of training for both a leading blockchain protocol and a European crypto exchange, giving him a unique insider perspective on the intersection of technology, business, and regulation. So whether you're a seasoned miner or curious investor, or someone looking to future-proof your career in blockchain, Bryant's insights offer the roadmap to navigate and transform this space. And without further ado, let's bring Bryant up.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for joining us, Bryant. What's great about your day?
My day is that it's a beautiful day outside. It's finally getting to be not quite spring, but it's seems to be right on the horizon. So that's how my day is starting, and so it's a good thing.
Yes, yes. Spring has sprung and the goat-footed balloon man runs far and near, as I once heard on a Lucky Charms box. Anyways, so we're going to be talking about quantum computing, and I'm excited about this. I'm really excited. I think that there's a lot to unpack here. You know, when we look at, it's been in the news a lot lately, and you hear about stocks, you hear this innovation like Microsoft did this, Amazon did that, Google did this. Can you share with us what is happening with quantum computing? Just kind of set the stage for us.
Sure. I mean, how it all came to be is I've been spending a lot of time, of course, working on content and creating certifications, and just being aware of emerging technologies. Emerging technologies they seem to be coming at such a fast pace that it's at times it seems overwhelming. And recently, I went through that same component, that same experience with quantum computing. And of course, we started first off, people have been talking about quantum computing for a long time, just like they've been talking about AI. I mean, I have a childhood friend who worked for 25 years at IBM in their AI area. And so it's always been just beyond the horizon. Well, that's what quantum computing has been until just recently. First of all, last November, what we saw we saw IBM release their quantum chip, their Heron chip. That was an amazing thing. And people all of a sudden started changing their dialogue in terms of what quantum computing is going to be. And hopefully in our discussion today, we're going to talk about not only the quantum computing, but how it relates to Bitcoin and blockchain in general. But following that IBM announcement last November, what we started to see then is in December is Google releasing their state-of-the-art quantum chip, which is called Willow. When I first looked at that, one of the examples that they had created and suggested that they were able to do was to calculate out a problem that it would take billions of years for traditional computers to actually do. And within a 48-hour period, they were able to solve this one singular problem. Now, at first, people were going like, wow, quantum computing is really, starting to make a difference, because if we can start to solve these problems that would take, from a time frame longer than the age of the universe, and all of a sudden have it done in days or hours, that would actually be life-changing. And of course, then we were followed up immediately, most recently, um, and I'm guessing this was back in February, because we're only in early March now. But that was Microsoft introducing their quantum computing chip, the Majorna. And that was really quite amazing, because what they've done is they've created a new state that allows for their quantum computing to be computer chip to be exponentially expanded. They estimate that they can get it up to uh, a million cubic. So from that standpoint, it's potentially life-changing. And then, of course, last week we had Amazon come out with their. So here we have four. Theirs is, of course, called Ocelot. So we had IBM, and we have Microsoft, and we've had Amazon, and and Google all come out with these quantum chips. And when we start to look at them and we start to say to ourselves, what is going on? Well, the first part of it is this. This is the early days. We're not replacing any laptops with quantum computers anytime, but we're moving closer to a practical use, and that's why it's all over the news.
Mhm. So I have a couple more questions that are going to really dive into the blockchain and cryptography. I think that's really important for all of us to understand, to kind of ease the tensions or ease the curiosity. But my first question would be, can you just give us a 1-minute overview? What is quantum computing, and why is it different than the i7 or the M4 that Apple just came out with?
Well, yeah. So quantum computing is different in the sense that the traditional computing is a binary component. It's 0 or 1. It really is something that basically says, it's on or off. Well, quantum computing is a little different. It introduces a third state. So, the differences between traditional and quantum computing are almost as different as night and day. And they're based on completely different rules of physics. Again, the traditional computers, which are our laptops, our cell phones, they process information in bits, which are either 0 or 1. Now, quantum computers use qubits, which can be a 0 or 1 or both at the same time. And thanks to a property called superposition, that allows for then a new element that can be introduced. So you can think of these qubits working together through a process that's called entanglement, which allows them to work together in ways that classical bits just can't. The result is that quantum computers can explore many possible solutions all at the same time, giving them the potential to solve problems that would take classical computers thousands or millions or even billions of years if they could solve them at all. And this all matters because the new way of computing could unlock breakthroughs in fields like drug discovery, climate modeling, financial modeling, material developments. And when we think of these things, we're really exploring the billions of variables all at once, and that makes them very critical.
And I think that's a great explanation. And superposition, Neil deGrasse just had a meme that went up, and it was a kitchen cupboard that was a glass kitchen cupboard, and then it had the dishes leaning up against the door of the glass cupboard. And he said, this is superposition. These dishes are broken and not broken all at the same time, because if you open the door to get the dishes break, and so as long as they sit there, they're not broken. And I think that was a really clever way of giving a layman's term of what is superposition, because it's a hard thing to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. There's and the name is escaping me, the paradox, the cat paradox. When you have a cat in a box, and do you know if the cat is alive or dead? The Big Bang Theory oftentimes talked about that as a way of understanding what potentials could exist all simultaneously.
Yeah, the cat, it's like Schrodinger's. There it is.
Yes, that's what it is.
So we don't have it bug us. So is quantum computing, a computer is definitely a computer. It is nothing like a human brain. It doesn't process any information like an organic machine would. Is quantum computing 1 step closer or 10 steps closer to an organic processing of solutions, or not at all?
I'm going to say not at all, and I'll share with you my reasoning behind that. The reason why I say that it's not at all is that what computers lack is awareness. So if we have AGI through artificial intelligence, that is the moment that we get awareness. Computers by themselves, I don't think, can become aware. Even quantum computers, they have the capacity to process vast quantities of data more efficiently than, say, you or I could do. But when you start to think about quantum computing, it's just a new tool. Now, there are some that would argue that self-awareness issue is really going to be paramount to something being greater, mimicking or replicating what the biological aspects of humans are. So from that standpoint, I still view them as being ruled by us, but with the right software, they could become quite competitive in our society and allow for them to take over the world, if you really want to take a draconian viewpoint.
We had some jokes about that in our earlier conversation. We'll bring those up later. So be sure to put your comments, your questions, anything that you'd like to talk about into the comment or chat section of whatever platform you're watching this on. We'd like to get to them at the end of the conversation, but we want to make sure that we address what's important to you about quantum computing. So one thing, what is quantum resistant cryptography? I could almost say that. Speech therapy is not working well. And why is it important?
Well, sure. So quantum resistant cryptography is one of the most critical conversations that revolve around quantum computing. So now most encryption that protects your bank transactions, your personal data, and even blockchain systems is based on math problems that are extremely difficult for today's computers to resolve. But quantum computers could blow right through those defenses, breaking today's encryptions much faster than, say, traditional computers ever could. So quantum resistant cryptography is this new class of encryption methods being developed specifically to withstand attacks from quantum computers. It uses math problems that are difficult for both classical as well as quantum computers. Now, the goal, of course, with quantum resistant cryptography is to future-proof our digital world so that even when powerful quantum machines arrive, our data, our communication, and our financial systems kind of remain safe. Now, one of the things that I really want to also talk about, and that is the term that we use. We use the term quantum resistant cryptography. So what we know about cryptography is that it's difficult, and the more bits that you introduce to it, the more difficult and the greater amount of time it takes to actually try to resolve it. Quantum computing has the capacity to do things simultaneously so quickly that it becomes next to impossible for those cryptography elements to not be resolved. So all quantum resistant cryptography is doing is intended to slow down the quantum computer from actually resolving that or breaking that cryptography.
Now, I want to kind of follow up on that. I think the big elephant in the room is, can quantum computing break Bitcoin and make the internet unsafe or make Bitcoin obsolete?
Well, that's really two questions. So let's deal with the first one. So can quantum computing break the existing encryption for the internet to make it unsafe? That big question is not science fiction. If someone builds a large enough and stable enough quantum computer, it could break a lot of the encryption that we rely on today, including the encryption that protects your online banking, your emails, and even government secrets. And that's why there's this quantum threat is such a hot topic in cybersecurity circles. Well, there's this concept of what they call harvest now, decrypt later, where hackers could actually steal encrypted data today and just wait until a quantum computing or computer is powerful enough to crack it. And this is why governments and companies are pushing so hard to develop and adopt quantum-resistant encryption before it's too late. Now, the second question that you have is could quantum computers render all Bitcoin, irrelevant? Well, the first part of that is yes, it could. It can do two things. The first part of it is the encryption that's related to Bitcoin transactions. Could that be compromised? Well, the answer to that, of course, is yes. And yes, we have already, quantum-resistant algorithms out there that are being introduced to some of the blockchain protocols, and that type of an adoption could be fairly easily done as it relates to Bitcoin. But the beautiful part about Bitcoin is that it becomes increasingly difficult as each block is built to go back and try to change some of the outcomes, because we always work on this longest chain type concept. But one of the other aspects of it could be is the following: is could these quantum computers render Bitcoin mining irrelevant? And that's a question that's popping up more and more. And the short answer, at least for me, is not anytime soon. But in the long term, it is a risk the industry is already thinking about. And here's why. Bitcoin mining relies heavily on the process called proof of work, where miners compete to solve incredibly difficult math problems. And these puzzles are designed to be hard for traditional computers, including the most powerful supercomputers, but fairly easy to verify once solved. Well, once you introduce quantum computing, quantum computers are theoretically capable of solving a certain type of cryptographic puzzle much faster than today's mining hardware. Specifically, they could break the elliptical curve cryptography, which Bitcoin uses for wallet addresses and private keys. Potentially solve problems of the hashing process faster, although SHA-256, Bitcoin's hashing algorithm, it isn't as vulnerable to known quantum algorithms as encryption like RSA. But here's the important part. Quantum computers aren't magic. They are extremely fragile. They need to have and operate near zero temperatures to operate. Current quantum computers have dozens or hundreds of qubits, but to threaten Bitcoin's encryption or mining process, they would need to have a machine with millions of stable qubits. Now, as I started at the beginning, IBM's, I think it's IBM's, no, it's Microsoft's Majora, that has the capacity to actually scale to 1 million qubits. And really at that point, then something could happen. Now, a lot of people, experts who believe that 1 million qubits, stable qubits, is something more like a decade or more away. I think, though, that with the Microsoft announcement, that it's really much closer to being 5-6 years away. So what's more realistic threat isn't to Bitcoin mining itself, but to private keys and wallet security.
That makes sense. So I had a curious idea. If quantum computers would be used to break the encryption, wouldn't there also be an argument that quantum computers would make a new encryption or new encryption layer to protect against themselves?
Well, again, it gets back to the issue of quantum resistant algorithms, and all it's going to do is slow it down. So if you think of SHA-256, it is a process to slow down traditional computers, and that's why we have to continually upgrade the hardware for Bitcoin mining so that we could potentially solve the puzzle quicker, because those people the miners who solve those puzzles get the rewards. Quantum computing would be able to do things simultaneously. And when you start to scale up the qubits in a quantum machine, you're really creating the opportunity for simultaneous attacks on that cryptography in ways that I don't think we yet imagine. I do believe that there's a possibility that we could come up with better quantum resistant cryptography, but at least based on what we have now, there's going to be a challenge at the point that we actually have that capacity.
So quick plug, shout out. We don't have a banner for it, but if you are in Milwaukee, we are going to be at CypherCon, which is a hacker fest, and we're going to be doing a Bitcoin Village, and that's on April 3rd and 4th. It's going to be pretty cool, and we're going to, I think, continue this conversation with hackers and people who are involved in the business. And there goes Scott doing great work on the chat board. He's doing fantastic. We love what he's doing. So you talked about some real world applications for quantum computing. What can quantum computers solve better than like supercomputers?
Well, that's a great question. And this is where the excitement about quantum computing comes in. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Like in pharmaceuticals, quantum computers could solve and simulate molecular molecules in designing new drugs much faster than today's methods. I mean, we've already started to see things not with quantum computers, but just using AI, giving them the ability to hallucinate and come up with a number of different possible solutions, and then at the same time trying to find those solutions. With quantum computing, that would be I want to say on steroids, but that's not even the correct way. It would be comparing a bicycle to one of the Concorde. I don't know what the new jet is, the passenger jet that allows to speed faster than sound. But when you start to think of it, that's really the difference that we're dealing with. Things like logistics and supply chains, well, they could be optimized to manage the complex routes in real time, even when there are millions of variables. In finance, we could see that they could model risk scenarios across thousands of market conditions and helping with better investment strategies. In climate science, they could simulate entire ecosystems, helping them better predict climate change effects. And when we think of something that is kind of an interesting thing for me, and that is material science, they could design new materials for everything from better batteries to superconductors. Now, these are the problems where the combination complexity is just really too big for the classical computers to handle efficiently. But quantum computers could actually unlock new solutions at ease.
So I guess let's go back to scary stuff, because that's scary sells. We got to hype this up as the world is ending. Governments are definitely using quantum computers right now. You said that it is IBM and Microsoft, which makes sense. They've been in the computer business forever. But Google and Amazon, they're relative newcomers, even though they're kind of the old guard. But they're really expanding their reach, not just in the software end of things that they do and the solutions that they offer, but now getting into the hardware, which is fascinating, and they must see some value in it. What kind of government activity have you seen? And are we in an arms race? What is China doing? I know China came out with the blue, the sky thing. That may or may not be true, but what are you seeing?
I would first of all say that, yeah, there is this quantum arms race. And when we start to think about it, the first question is what's at stake? And are those stakes higher than, say, other emerging technologies? Quantum computing is considered a strategic technology because of its potential to break encryption models and create advanced weapons, and essentially unlock scientific breakthroughs. The US, China, and the EU, and even smaller countries like Canada and Australia, they're pouring billions into quantum research. We have big tech companies, of course, before I mentioned Google, IBM, Microsoft, and Amazon. They're also heavily investing, hoping to be the first to commercialize quantum computing. And while you did point out that Amazon seems to be a new player, we continually seem to make the mistake about identifying what Amazon is. Amazon is a technology company that just happens to have a side business in retail, in my mind. AWS, when it first came out, they built it for themselves. So they had to build, take on the technology aspect of it, and not just fulfillment and logistics, but the technology aspect to build all this. And then once they did, they realized that there's so much opportunity there. So Amazon, we need to adjust how we think of Amazon. There are also, the stakes are in a mix of economic advantages and national security. And whoever masters quantum computing first will have the edge in everything from developing new technologies to cracking other, national encryption data. And there's also a race to set the global standard for quantum resistant cryptography, because the country or companies that can lead on that front could shape the future of secure communication for decades to come. In short, I guess this isn't about science, it's about who controls the future of technology and security.
So speaking of the future, we're going to make this blue because we're going to try to lighten the mood a little bit. We talked about this earlier, and this is maybe we should go back to the dark background. Quantum computing and AI, are they going to team up, build Skynet, and build a series of P600s that are going to come out and, wipe us all out? Or what are some of the challenges that you see? Is it possible? Can those two get together and make a supercomputer team that is going to threaten humanity?
Yes, I think that is possible. I think, though, that you're missing one element, and that is robotics. When you start to think about having AI and quantum computing, and then having the ability to deploy something through robotics. I mean, there's been a bunch of examples in the last 2 or 3 months about how robotics can do, karate and kung fu, how they're able to do flips, how you can throw them a basketball and they turn around and swish the basketball from half court. I mean, robotics is really going to be an important part of it. But, it is a fantastic angle to understand the combination of quantum computing and artificial intelligence. And, artificial intelligence we use interchangeably with machine learning. So when we first start talking about AI models, like the ones being used for, large language processing, image recognition, and predictive analytics, they rely on training systems that process enormous amounts of data. Now, quantum computing could actually supercharge all that AI training by handling complex mathematical calculations much faster, especially in areas, again, like pattern recognition, optimization problems, where you're searching for the best possible outcome out of millions of possibilities, and then simulating complex systems like human brain processes, which could improve how we design the future of AI. That said, it's still theory more than reality. We need more stable and scalable quantum systems before they're ready to partner with AI at scale. One of the things, though, that we all are aware of as it relates to AI is the challenge that they have on the training data. And what we're starting to see is that they've fed all of the data relevant to that they can access. I mean, every scrap of paper that they can access, they've been feeding into these AI models for training. What quantum can do is it can actually create that simulated data that would then be able to exponentially help these large language models understand and come up with better solutions. So again, it's really more theory than reality. We need more stable and scalable systems, but it's safe to say that AI and quantum and robotics could be a powerful combination, almost like putting a rocket engine into a sports car.
Yeah. And every technology has always been met with resistance. The internet was this horrible thing. Cell phones were an awful invention. The refrigerator, the car, everything in technology, every innovation throughout history has always been met with skepticism and people who will always lead to the worst. How can this, possibly turn out to be the worst thing? And I think what it's proven is that all of those inventions, everything that's happened over, the past 150 years of the industrial and technology revolution, is that these things freed up time so that we had new time to be creative in ways that we didn't know were possible. And so they become really powerful tools for us to grow and prosper and to do new things that we didn't realize we had. So speaking of kind of myths and misconceptions, that's a real tough word today. So myth and misconception, nailed it. What are some of them around quantum computing, and can you share some of those?
Yeah, there's some big ones, and clearing them up kind of helps people understand where we really are as this emerging technology comes forward. So the first myth, of course, is quantum computers are going to replace all regular computers. That's just not going to be true. Quantum computings are very, very specialized. They solve specific kinds of problems far better than classical computers. But for the day-to-day computing like email, gaming, spreadsheets, your traditional computers aren't really going to go anywhere. So again, that's myth number one. Myth number two, quantum computers already exist and are ready to be used. Now, when I started earlier in this, I referenced the 4 computing platforms that have been developing quantum chips. These are prototype quantum computers. IBM, Google, and Amazon, and Microsoft, they have working models, but they're still fragile. There's a big problem in quantum computing called error correction, so they're error prone. When you start to think of a quantum computer, how they're going to get better is to eliminate the number of errors. I read once that the amount of computation power that a quantum computing chip would do would spend 99% of its capacity on just error correction, and that 1%, even 1%, is so spectacularly powerful that it overrules everything else. But what we are thinking about is that we're still a long ways away from practical large-scale quantum systems. I guess a third myth would be quantum computers are these magical systems that solve every problem. I would say not quite. Quantum computers excel at very specific types of problems, again, like factoring large numbers or simulating molecules, but they're not going to write your next novel. AI can do that for you, or run your video meetings any better than what you have now. I think really what it's coming down to is it's important to know that quantum computing just isn't a faster computer. It's a fundamentally different way of processing information. And that's really why we should be excited about it, but also why it's also challenging. The other aspect of it is that you pointed out that 150 years of technological advancement has fundamentally changed our lives. Well, Dell Technology came out with a study recently that said that 85% of the jobs that will exist in 2030 have not even been created. And so we're literally 5 years away from 2030. And they're projecting that 85% of the jobs that will exist then don't exist now. That also reminds me of a saying that I heard about medical teachers or doctors who are in medical school, and that is that they're told that what they're learning currently in medical school might be state of the art, but by the time that they graduate, half of what they learned will be obsolete. The follow-up, though, to it was that they don't know which half is going to be obsolete. But this is, it's a big problem.
It is. We talked about, people talk about the fear of, when is quantum computing going to take over ASICs or, Bitcoin mining machines or the process. The industry moves really slow. So AI came out in 2022, 2023, end of 22, and then into 23.
Yep, November 2022.
Yeah, and that's when it really proliferated the marketplace. And really the first AI technology inside of an ASIC is in a mythological unicorn that is, made by Bitmain, the 860, and those won't really be proliferating the market for a long time. I mean, it'll be the end of this year before they really start shipping in mass, and throughout 2026, you're really not going to see a ton of them. So AI is taking years and years and years just to do a really simple thing, and quantum computing is going to be doing this huge thing. If they do it, it's going to take a very long time, well past 2032, I believe, for anything like that to happen. But we do want to get to questions, because I know that some people have questions. Trevor, did you, if you want to jump in with a question, I want you to just jump in if you're interested. Otherwise, I'm going to look at some of the questions that we have here. There he is.
Hey, how's it going? Great conversation, guys. I love what you're doing here. And I really think that the quantum computing conversation is something that everybody has on their mind right now. My biggest question that I have for you, Bryant, is Satoshi's coins, these were made with, the original Bitcoin cryptography, and they're stored in that cryptography. What happens, can quantum computing break that cryptography and steal those coins? Because we all believe Satoshi's gone, he's not coming back. So in theory, those coins aren't moving, they're not getting updated to new quantum resistant methods. So what's the deal there?
That's a really great question, and the answer to that is, Craig Wright has been spending hundreds of millions of dollars to try to crack that, and to access that million plus reserve of Bitcoin. Quantum computing theoretically could, but excuse me, some of the problems that we have with Bitcoin, excuse me, is that roughly 20 to 25% of our Bitcoins are already lost, and that includes the million that the Satoshi reserve would include. What will happen is that it would actually flood the market if that all of a sudden became aware, but also everyone would know that something occurred. That's one of the wallets that is watched very, very closely from a pure academic standpoint of just saying, could this theoretically happen, and what would the impact be? If you look at what Mt. Gox did when they started to release some of their Bitcoin, it tended to depress prices simply because now there was liquidity in the marketplace that just didn't exist prior. I think that from what I read, the Bitcoin wells are currently holding more than 50-60% of the available Bitcoin, and not even using them. They're just being held in reserve. Getting back to your question, yes, I think that quantum computing will be able to break that. But I think that there's enough things that could be done to protect that from ever being released. But then the question might be is are we really dealing with a 21 million Bitcoin environment, or are we dealing with a 20 or a 16 million Bitcoin environment? Yeah. I always get frustrated when people talk about the entire market cap of Bitcoin. If you count, all the 19 plus million Bitcoins, yes, it has, this tremendous market cap. But again, by some estimates, it's somewhere between 4 and 5 million of these Bitcoins are lost and never recoverable. Another example is there's some CTO that forgot his seed words phrases and cannot capture it. And he the wallet that he uses allows him 10 times. Well, I think he's done 6 times to try to resolve that, to regain access to those Bitcoins. That might help these types of people where they're still alive, they're still living, and there's a direct correlation of ownership to them. But yeah, I think that quantum computing will eventually break that, and that million Bitcoin reserve will be accessed.
Yeah, absolutely. So, sorry, John, I'm taking your spotlight a little bit.
I love it. Do it.
what's the white pill here? You know, Marty Bent talks a lot about white pills and black pills, and you know, just to give everybody like a ray of optimism and hope, you know, because everybody's feeling very, you know, scared. Even after this conversation, it's still a little like, oh man, like, should we be worried? What's the ray of hope? What's the white pill here?
Well, I'm going to just take a look backward. When smartphones first started coming out, what was state of the art at that time on computer chips was probably the 386 or the 486, going back 25, 30 years ago. And the 386 in particular was first viewed as the first supercomputer that was available on a desktop. And of course, as we've gone through all these generations and iterations of chips, we're dealing with chips that are infinitely more powerful than what they were before. There's always the discussion that the cards that play music when you open up have more computing power than what was used to launch, the first Apollo mission to the moon. This type of growth in computing capacity and capabilities are only going to be absorbed and made more useful. Just like with cryptography, you've gone through various generations of more complex cryptography. I think that we'll find ourselves in that same situation where, these kinds of things will step up with the computing power. I'm not afraid of quantum computing. I'm not even afraid of AI. I know a lot of people seem to be. I think that the people who will have jobs in the future are people who will be, assisted by AI. Quantum computing is going to be infinitely more regulated to solving bigger problems than, going after Satoshi's Bitcoin. But, you never know.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
I think quantum computers are, there's not supercomputers in every house. There's not supercomputers in hackers, at their disposal. There are supercomputers in bad actors in other countries, but for the most part, the limit of the truly supercomputers is pretty restricted, and I think quantum are going to follow that same path. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's just use the example of AI. It takes millions, hundreds of millions of dollars to create a data center for these AI systems to be trained on. DeepSeek came out, and they came out with this concept that it was $6 million to train their AI. What everyone seems to fail to realize is that they spent $60 million on the chips, the theoretical chips that they bought, which were the handicap chips. That I think they were the H800s. And they still had to put it all together, and they still had to have a data center, and they still had to have all the power to, energy to do that, and they still needed to have all the people to do it, to put all these things together, and then even come up with the process so that it could be trained. These things are going to be incredibly expensive. When Facebook talks about creating a $200 billion data center, simply because of the growth of their marketplace. These are not going to be something that you can go, just to the local computer store and buy and say, I'm going to bring it home and my desktop's going to rule the world. These are incredibly expensive systems. I mean, you think of all the national laboratories and the competition that they have on supercomputers, and then compare it to, Bitcoin's computing power. Bitcoin dwarfs all of them. All the computing power that's dedicated towards, Bitcoin mining dwarfs all the supercomputers. But it's going to be incredibly expensive. So even if one could solve the cryptography for Satoshi's, million Bitcoins, it may not even be enough to pay for what they're building.
Yeah, so I know that we're getting up here on time, John. We got a couple questions from the Peanut Gallery. Brennan is asking, my only question is or concern with this is the network infrastructure and grid power. So what is quantum computing going to do to network infrastructure, to grid power, to things like computers that like the systems that we already have in place today?
Well, I don't think that it will be any different than what we're seeing with AI. We're talking about a lot of these AI companies who are saying, I want to have a nuclear reactor to serve my data center. Personally, the only scalable energy that can meet the demand, in my mind, is nuclear for all these data centers. I do know that there's been huge advancements in nuclear power generation, where they've created these little micro nuclear power plants that essentially don't need any of the water to cool them down. But they're capable of supporting a large data center. I think that we'll see a proliferation of that. And again, is it going to impact our grid? I personally think that most massive data centers that will be built in the future will not be dependent on the grid. They will be self-sustaining energy producers. So that's the way I view it.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely makes me feel a little bit better about our situation right now. I think this whole conversation has really made me feel a lot better about where we're moving in the future, because you do hear a lot of FUD, and do you believe the FUD? Do you not believe the FUD? And so it's great to have an expert like yourself to come on and kind of help us feel a little bit better about where we're going in the future. So we have another one from Not John McAfee. Quantum computation would make ASIC miners obsolete. Is that a rhetorical comment there?
Well, yeah, but are you going to put a $50 billion computer to mine Bitcoin? Is that what your plan is? The answer is going to be no. You've got bigger problems. I mean, if you think of it from an economic incentivization aspect, if you had a $50 billion quantum computer, are you going to be working on Bitcoin, or are you going to be going to all the governments of the world and say, I'm going to create a weapons system for you, or I'm going to go to all the airlines and say, I can come up with a weather model or climate model that will help you actually run your systems better. There's more money in that than there is in Bitcoin. So yeah, in theory, yeah, it could change ASIC's impact, but that's not even the low-hanging fruit for quantum computing at all. So yeah, theoretically it could be done, but why would you do that? There's more money elsewhere.
There's a lot of opportunity to make money in a lot of different areas. Yesterday we were talking with Nathan Poole, and he talked about the amount of gold that's in the world. There's so much gold that it's just not worth mining it. It costs more to get that gold than it is to sell it for the $2,200 or whatever it is.
Well, that's the same argument with Bitcoin mining machines. At what point is there an economic disincentive to continue mining? What's the shutdown price? If Bitcoin falls to this price, it becomes no longer supportive to operate. And so yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, they've talked about having these nodules that exist on the ocean floors that is 100 or 1,000 times the amount of gold that's available on the surface here. But it's economic incentives. It's more expensive to go down there, try to get it, bring it up, refine it, than you could make from actually then selling that into the market.
Yeah, just leave it there. Great conversation. I think that we can all rest at ease that quantum computing is, they're not going to mess with this little Bitcoin thing we got going on. Even if we do add a zero, it's still not worth that much to a quantum computer and the scale of things. And they're going to go after other things like ruling the world or killing us all. I think that's a fair statement, right? Okay, maybe a little dark on that, but they are going to go after some more important things than Bitcoin. So I think we're safe in our Bitcoin mining business. And there's never been a better time to be in the Bitcoin mining business than now. And you can join us at the virtual conference. That's our last little plug. Well, I thank Bryant D. Nielson for joining us and talking about quantum computing. Thank you so much. This has been very insightful.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on, John.
Yeah, it's much appreciated. And we're going to see you at the virtual conference.
Yes.
You're going to be talking about education, which is, if we talk about the zero factor, is adding a zero to the value of Bitcoin by educating the masses. That's my thing that I'm doing right now. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing at the virtual conference.
Well, oftentimes what we do is we think of education as an afterthought to understanding what we're wanting to do. One of the things that education has brought forward is that the better and more knowledgeable we are about a topic, blockchain, Bitcoin, the better and more useful we become as users of these technologies. I mean, a great example is when I'm forgetting what it was called. Flash. That was the technology Flash. When that was first used in Web 2, when you started to see, this interaction and animations that were on websites, and they were using Flash, and of course, Steve Jobs came out and said, it's a waste of energy and CPU cycles. There's a better one out there, HTML5, and so really, what it took though was the ability to educate people that you were moving to something better. And I think that what's going to happen is that, and it follows a very standard education paradigm, and that is that once you start getting people to understand things better, they are now more able to come up with new ideas. So education isn't the end. It's actually the beginning, because once you understand something, you're standing on the shoulders of the prior giants, and you're now able to see a horizon or a vista that allows for you to come up with new ideas. I think, the role of education is to help us to learn to critically think better and be able to use new and imaginative recombinations of technologies to achieve a greater universe, a greater future for us. And that's really the approach that I take. And, yes, I'm going to be speaking about that. So please come join the virtual conference. And of course, listen to my little part of it. But, you're going to find yourself as an attendee of the virtual conference, walking away with new and imaginative ways of changing what you do and the impact you make in this life.
Yeah. And I think what you touched on is so important. We talked a little bit about that when we were in Florida the other day. The pioneers who invented Bitcoin mining, there were no tools, there were no methods, there were no blueprints, books, or YouTube videos on how to do it. They had to invent the tools to Bitcoin mine. They had to invent the processes, the ways to solve it. Now, when you're in that mode of inventing it in the beginning, sometimes it's hard to see a level or two up. It's cosmic theory. You can only understand kind of your world around you, and you kind of get sucked into it. So when these new people get educated and come into that world and they see what these innovators, these pioneers did that helped build this great industry that we're a part of, they can say, oh, I can see a different perspective. And here's how we could take what you did and what you did and make this new thing that the two of you weren't able to see. And that's where that education comes in. And that's what we're all about in this virtual conference. And so I really appreciate you being a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me here. And I look forward to participating next week.
Fantastic. So Bryant D. Nielson, thank you so much. Quantum computers, we're safe for now. And until next week, we'll see you on the Mastermind group, and we'll see you next Tuesday. At the virtual conference.
Yes, very good.
All right, thank you.